First story. I let my new husband abuse my daughter. Now he threw her toys and grounded her for sulking. I didn't stop him to protect my relationship. Now I'm regretting my actions. I 35F divorced my ex-husband 36M about 3 years ago. We share a 6-year-old daughter together, and we've been on a 50-50 custody schedule ever since, though sometimes things shift based on his work schedule. He travels a lot. It's a big part of why our marriage fell apart, honestly. The distance, the coldness, always being on the move. Toward the end, I felt more like a single parent than a wife. A little over a year ago, I started dating my now husband, Victor 34M. We were long distance at first. He's in IT and works from home, and we met through mutual friends during a trip I took. Things moved fast, but it felt right. He was stable, emotionally available, and most importantly present. We'd talk every night. He'd ask about my daughter, ask about my day, and all the stuff my ex hadn't done in years. After about 7 months, we agreed Victor would relocate and move in with me. That's when things with my ex started getting tense. He didn't want to meet Victor, barely said 2 words to him, even during drop-offs or pickups. I tried to ease my daughter into things. Victor was respectful and never overstepped. But my ex clearly hated the fact that another man was going to be around his kid, even though he was gone for work literally half the year. Fast forward earlier this year, my ex had to travel abroad for work again. Originally, it was supposed to be a 2-month trip. It turned into 8.5 months. He FaceTimed with our daughter maybe once or twice a week, sometimes less when he was too slammed. I handled all the school stuff, medical, everything. Victor helped not as a replacement dad, but just there. Making lunches, driving her to school when I had to work early, and bedtime stories. My daughter genuinely likes him. But obviously she misses her dad too, especially when he disappears for months. So during his trip, he started sending toys, like a lot of toys. Every few weeks there'd be a new package: dolls, puzzles, coloring sets, all addressed to her from Daddy. But here's the thing, many of them were kind of over the top, and some were just weird. He sent a talking parrot that wouldn't shut up, a fake hamster that moved like a real one and made Victor jump when he saw it in the hallway, and a squishy slime kit that smelled so strongly it gave me a headache. Victor has struggled with some legitimate sensory and anxiety issues, and a few of these packages seriously triggered him. I won't get into all of his diagnosis, but it's a real thing. He's in therapy, on meds, and doing what he needs to do. But certain sounds, textures, and even specific toy smells can really overwhelm him, like to the point of full-blown panic attacks. And yes, we've talked to our daughter about it in an age-appropriate way. He started putting the packages away before our daughter saw them. Some he just threw out. At first, I was uncomfortable with it, but the more I saw how it affected him, the more I got it. I told him he should have just told me instead of handling it alone. But I wasn't going to blow up my entire household over a handful of toys, especially toys that our daughter never even saw. She wasn't asking about them. She wasn't crying or waiting by the door for packages. Half the time she forgot they were coming. Anyway, my ex came back into town last week and wanted to meet and discuss some concerns. I figured it would be a standard post-travel debrief: how school is going, any changes, etc. Instead, he's immediately on the attack. Why didn't she get the toys I sent? Where are they? I was kind of caught off guard, so I told him the truth, that some of them were triggering for Victor, and he had decided to dispose of them. That's when he lost it. Demanding receipts, demanding Victor pay him back, saying it was parental alienation, and threatening to take us to court. He went straight into lawyer mode, like we're negotiating some hostile business merger instead of co-parenting a child. He even had the audacity to call Victor a danger to our daughter. All because he didn't like that someone else made a judgment call in his absence. I explained to him, calmly at first, that Victor is dealing with real medical issues, that he can't always control certain reactions, and that I'm trying to maintain peace in my household. I also reminded him that he chose to be gone for 8 months, that I'm the one who's been here 24/7, handling the real, messy parts of parenting. But of course, in his mind, none of that counts because he sent some Amazon packages and called on Tuesdays. He then pushed past me to confront Victor directly. I tried to diffuse, but they ended up shouting at each other in the hallway, while our daughter was in the other room. My ex basically accused Victor of sabotaging his relationship with his daughter, said he was going to make him pay, down to the last effing dollar, and kept threatening court. I told him he was out of line and asked him to leave. He refused. So yeah, I called his mother, and his sister, because I know they can at least get through to him when he's on one of his self-righteous tears. I told them everything, how Victor's been struggling, how this situation is affecting our whole house, and how these toys have become this weird symbol for my ex's control issues. They both agreed that my ex needed to let it go. That dragging Victor into some kind of legal fight over unopened toys was ridiculous. I thought things would calm down. I really did. But then my ex doubled down. He called me again the next day and said he'd spoken to a lawyer. He wanted an itemized list of every single toy that got thrown out. Not just to be reimbursed, he wanted documentation. And he started talking about filing for a custody modification. Said my home was unstable, and that Victor was unfit to be around children. I told him flat out, no, I wasn't going to punish my husband for something that happened while my ex was overseas and barely present. He kept insisting it was his right to send things to his daughter, and that nobody in my house had the authority to interfere. But the thing is, he acts like parenting only happens on paper. Like he can send a package, FaceTime once a week, and still claim the role of primary influence over a kid he hasn't been consistently there for. And yes, I chose to be with someone who has mental health struggles. Victor's diagnosis is real. He was transparent about it before we even moved in together. He's in treatment, takes it seriously, and functions just fine in day-to-day life. But he has triggers, and a few of those toys set him off. They weren't appropriate for our home. That's not a crime. That's reality. What makes me mad is that my ex doesn't even try to understand that. To him, it's black and white: his gifts, his daughter, his rules. But our daughter lives in a shared environment. If a toy causes panic attacks in one member of the household, then I'm going to prioritize stability over some gift she never even saw. And just to be clear, these weren't sentimental things. This wasn't a stuffed animal she'd had since birth. They were all new toys. The only reason she now knows something happened is because her dad brought it up to her, and now she's confused. Not devastated. Confused. He's the one who planted this whole idea that she was denied something. Now she's asking me if Victor hates her toys. That never would have crossed her mind if he hadn't pushed this narrative. It's manipulative. He's creating conflict where there was none. And now, instead of focusing on how to ease her transition with her dad being back, I have to manage this weird loyalty test he's created. He's been like this before, to be honest. When we were still married, anytime I tried to set boundaries or made a choice he didn't fully control, he'd act like I was personally attacking him. One time I enrolled our daughter in a weekend dance class, just a Saturday morning thing, and he lost it because I hadn't cleared it with him first. Even though he was out of town and wouldn't have been the one driving her. He sees everything through a control lens. Not what's best for her, not how things function on the ground. Just whether he had a say. And he doesn't like that Victor has a say now. That's what this is really about. Not the toys. Not their price. It's about the fact that another man lives in a house with his daughter, and he doesn't get to micromanage it. Victor doesn't discipline her. He doesn't try to be dad. He's supportive, kind, and cautious. But because he made a call in his own home, a call that, frankly, protected his own mental health, my ex sees it as an unforgivable act. Now he's painting me like I'm some cold-hearted monster choosing a man over my kid. But I'm not. I'm choosing the reality we live in. I'm choosing peace in the house over a conflict that didn't even exist until he made it one. And let me be blunt. He's not getting a dime from us. Victor has been struggling financially ever since he had to take a leave of absence earlier this year for health reasons. We're already buried in medical bills. The idea that we're going to reimburse someone for a bunch of noisy, sensory-triggering junk that never even made it to our kid. No, absolutely not. But now he's turning people against us. He even told my brother that Victor's a danger and accused him of emotional abuse by neglecting her gifts. He told my mom that if I don't get my house in order, he's going to push for full custody. Full custody even though he spent 8 months overseas and hasn't attended a single parent-teacher meeting in over a year. And of course, people are falling for it. Because he knows how to talk. He's good with words, always has been. My family thinks I'm being cold. His family says I'm not taking this seriously enough. But they're not here. They don't see the way Victor wakes up early to pack her lunch, or how he double-checks the route to her school when I have to work late. He's not perfect, but he cares and he's trying, even with all the pressure my ex is throwing at him. So yeah, I'm done apologizing. Victor didn't do anything out of malice. He was protecting his space, his mind, and his health. I support that. I live in this house, not my ex. And I'm tired of bending over backwards to accommodate a man who only shows up to stir the pot. I haven't responded to his last message yet. He's threatening small claims court now. Over toys. Ada. Comments. Comment 1. YTA. And you're acting like the toys were the problem, not the dynamic. I'm going to be blunt. You're pretending this was about triggers and maintaining peace. But it reads like you wanted to erase any reminder of your ex from the house. Victor didn't throw out the toys because they were all triggering. He threw them out because they were from your ex. You even admitted some were just over the top or things you didn't like. Your ex was gone because of work, not because he vanished for fun. And yes, sending toys was him trying to connect. Not perfectly, not deeply, not replacing in-person parenting, but it was effort. Your daughter didn't get to decide whether those gifts mattered to her. You and Victor decided for her. That's the core issue here. Your kid didn't have a voice. You, an adult, and Victor, another adult, made unilateral decisions that shaped her relationship with her father. And now she's confused because that's exactly what happens when a parent's presence is filtered through someone else. The least you could have done was tell your ex before months passed. You didn't. Because you knew he'd push back, and you didn't want to deal with him. You didn't choose peace. You chose avoidance, and now your daughter is the one dealing with the fallout. YTA. Comment 2. You are saying Victor's mental health is the reason the toys were thrown out. But here's the thing. Children come with noise, chaos, mess, stimulation, and unpredictability. If Victor's triggers are so intense that children's toys set him off, then blending families should have been handled much slower and with actual professional guidance. Instead, it sounds like he moved in, became a major presence, and started influencing the environment around your daughter without her father having any say. The his house, his rules line is a huge red flag. That is not co-parenting. That is territorial behavior. And you defending it so hard tells me you're prioritizing your romantic relationship over the co-parenting relationship your child needs to have two secure households. And now your daughter has started to internalize it, asking if Victor hates her toys. That's not nothing. That is a deep emotional cue that she's already adjusting her personality and interests to avoid upsetting your husband. That's how kids learn to shrink themselves. Meanwhile, you're calling your ex dramatic for being upset that a grown man threw away his daughter's things because he didn't like them. You don't have to think your ex is a saint. He's probably not, but on this specific issue, he's right. YTA. Comment 3. You're siding with your husband over your daughter. And yeah, it is a problem. Look, I get it, your ex is probably hard to deal with, especially with his history of control. But your husband threw out gifts that were meant for your child. Not gifts for you. Not for him. For your daughter. She didn't even get a chance to see them. That's not protecting his mental health, that's interfering with her relationship with her dad. I'm sorry, but it is a bit effed up. If Victor's condition is so bad that toys trigger him to that extent, maybe he shouldn't be cohabiting with a young child who, let's be honest, is going to be surrounded by noisy, colorful, messy crap for the next decade. You framed it like you chose peace in the home, but it kind of sounds like you're choosing adult comfort over a child's connection with her father. And yes, your ex sounds controlling and dramatic, but the fact that you never once tried to tell him what was happening, not even a, hey, heads up, those gifts aren't working out here, makes you complicit. Victor may have pulled the trigger, but you handed him the gun. Update. I wasn't planning to update, but things escalated quickly, and honestly, I need perspective again because I'm second-guessing everything. So, my ex actually filed a small claims case. He's suing Victor, my husband, for reimbursement for the toys. Around wanting $200 in total. He claims it's not about the money, it's about setting a precedent. I laughed at first, thinking it was posturing. Then the paperwork came. Victor freaked out. He already struggles with anxiety, and this situation just pushed him past his threshold. He had a full panic episode 2 nights ago after we got served. Our daughter was home. She saw everything. I tried to shield her, but she's 6. She sees more than I want her to. The thing is, she already started acting different before the episode. She's been quiet. Snappy sometimes. One day she said, totally out of the blue, "Daddy told me he sent me so many presents, and you threw them away." I asked her where she heard that. She said, "Daddy said your husband didn't want me to have them." And that was it. That's the narrative now in her mind. That we, especially Victor, threw away gifts meant for her because we didn't want her to have them. I tried to explain it was more complicated, but honestly, what explanation makes sense to a 6-year-old? Your stepdad has sensory triggers doesn't exactly land. Since then, she's been saying she wants to spend more time at Daddy's house. She didn't say she wants to move, but the implication is there. Can I stay at Daddy's house all week? Why can't I sleep there 2 times in a row? Daddy doesn't get mad at me. It's killing Victor. He told me yesterday that maybe he made a mistake moving in with a child this young. That he doesn't want to be the reason our home feels tense for her. He said, word for word, if being here makes her uncomfortable, maybe I shouldn't be here. I've never seen him like that. He's spiraling, and I'm trying to be supportive, but it feels like everything is unraveling. Meanwhile, my ex is out here acting like this is some righteous crusade. He tells mutual friends, and even my family, that he's standing up for his daughter. But I know the truth, he's bitter. He can't stand that I moved on. That I married someone younger, more emotionally intelligent, better looking, and let's be real, actually invested in me. My ex used to mock Victor when we first started dating. Good luck with your little charity project, he said once. Now he's pissed that Victor didn't crumble. He hates that someone else stepped in and handled the day-to-day parenting while he was in another time zone chasing promotions. And the cherry on top. My brother tried to offer him money. Yep, behind my back. My brother called my ex and said he'd pay him the $1,200 just to shut this down. My ex refused, which, honestly, surprised me. But now I feel completely betrayed by my own family. My brother knew how bad things were here. He knew Victor had been struggling and that this lawsuit could tip him over the edge. But all he cared about was avoiding conflict, even if it meant validating my ex's behavior. I confronted him about it. He said, I just wanted to protect your peace. But it didn't feel like protection. It felt like undermining me. Like he assumed my ex's tantrum was legitimate, and I was the one making things worse by standing my ground. And now, I don't know what to do. Victor's barely sleeping. My daughter is emotionally confused and stuck in the middle. My ex is using our child to wage a personal vendetta. My family's no help, and I'm stuck wondering if the court will actually entertain this nonsense, or if we're going to be dragged through some embarrassing hearing where I have to explain to a judge that yes, adult men can be overwhelmed by talking parrots and slime kits. This was never about the toys. It was never about money. It's about my ex not being able to stomach the fact that he doesn't run my life anymore. That someone else is present in our daughter's life, and not tiptoeing around his imagined rules. I didn't expect this to spiral. I didn't expect my kid to get caught in it like this. But here we are. And honestly, I still don't think I'm wrong. But it's getting harder to tell. Comments. Comment 1. You're so focused on your ex's flaws. You're ignoring how your choices impacted your daughter. This isn't about your ex anymore. This is about your daughter, and you're failing her. You and Victor made choices around her not with her in mind. She didn't get a say. She didn't even get to see the toys. Then she found out they were tossed. From her father. And now she's confused and hurt. And instead of reflecting, you double down on blaming your ex for creating a narrative. But he didn't create it. You did. You let a man who knew he had sensory triggers move in with a kid. And now you're surprised she's asking to stay with the parent who doesn't make her feel like her presence is a threat. Also, if Victor is this mentally fragile, why was there no plan in place to deal with these kinds of triggers? Why was the first instinct to throw things away, not talk, and not set boundaries or compromises? You made your household feel conditional, and now your daughter wants out. This isn't parental alienation. This is a natural consequence. YTA. Comment 2. You married a man who can't handle loud toys. Your ex is reacting like a prick, but he's not wrong. You really thought it was a good idea to let a guy with debilitating sensory issues move in with a 6-year-old. Be honest. You weren't thinking about your kid. You were thinking about having a man around. Look, Victor might be sweet and trying, but if his response to stress is a full-on breakdown, and your response is to defend throwing away your kid's stuff instead of confronting the real issue, then I don't know what to tell you. Your ex isn't suing out of concern for toys. He's making noise because you're not listening, and unfortunately, this is probably the only language you respond to. And yes, he's being petty and smug about it. But he is right that your daughter has a right to her relationship with him, and the gifts were a part of that. Your brother probably offered him the money because he sees how far up your own arse you are about being right. Maybe sit with the fact that you got called out by your own family, and stop hiding behind Victor's anxiety as a free pass. YTA. But also, grow up. Comment 3. Your daughter is adapting to someone else's mental health instead of being allowed to be a child. I work in child psychology, so let me be extremely clear. When a child starts regulating their behavior to avoid triggering an adult, that is emotional harm. The moment your daughter asked if Victor hates her toys, The damage was already in motion. That means she has internalized. Her joy might cause distress. Her dad's love languages aren't welcome in her primary home. She has to shrink to keep the peace. And you keep framing everything around what you had to deal with. What Victor feels, what your ex is doing, who's jealous, who's controlling, and who's struggling. But your daughter, she's treated like background impact. A reflection of the adult's conflict instead of a person with her own emotional reality. That's the problem. Not the toys, not the lawsuit, not the marriage dynamics. It's that she is absorbing that her needs are inconvenient. And yes, your ex is dramatic, petty, ego-driven, whatever. But here's the uncomfortable part. He is the only person in this situation currently reacting to something that actually harmed the child. YTA for prioritizing the comfort of adults over the emotional security of your kid. Update. So a lot has happened since the last post, and none of it has been simple. First, the small claims case. It got dismissed. Not because the judge thought we were right, but because the judge said it was a custody-related matter and should be handled in family court instead. So yet technically we didn't have to pay anything. But the judge also looked at me and said something along the lines of, "It is concerning that the child did not have access to items sent by her father. If this comes up again in a custody review, it will be considered." I felt like I got slapped. Victor looked like he was about to pass out. My ex had this stiff, self-righteous look on his face, like he just caught somebody in a lie. And that's when he said he was filing to modify custody. So now we're in mediation. And every conversation is about home stability, attachment security, and emotional safety. And I'm realizing how much language my ex has prepared to weaponize this situation. He switched jobs to something stable, with no international travel. I'm not stupid. He did that to look better for court. But the worst part came before mediation even started. At school, my daughter had some kind of emotional moment during art class. The assignment was to draw your home, and she started crying, telling the teacher, "Daddy gives me presents, but Victor throws them away." So now the school counselor is involved. They called me in. They acted gentle, but I could tell they were already forming conclusions. They asked if my daughter felt safe to express herself at home. Safe. As if our house is threatening. I told them everything was fine, that my daughter was just confused because of the custody tension. They nodded that therapists nod where they're judging, but pretending not to. I didn't tell Victor about the meeting. I couldn't deal with his reaction on top of everything else. Then came the home visit. CPS, or whatever their title is, Family Welfare Specialist. She wasn't unfriendly, but she was observing everything. How the house was arranged, how my daughter interacted with me, how she spoke around Victor. My daughter was polite but distant, like she was performing. I felt sick watching it. After the home visit, my parents sat me down. And instead of defending me, they said, "Maybe your daughter needs a calmer environment right now." Calmer. Meaning not with us. Meaning not with Victor. I can't describe the betrayal. These are the same people who told me to move on and find someone stable after the divorce. Now that I've built something, they're turning on me because it doesn't look perfect from the outside. Then came the worst night we've had yet. My daughter had a pretty normal kid moment. She spilled paint on the carpet. Not intentional. Just messy. Victor snapped. Not a breakdown. Not a panic attack. He got angry. He raised his voice at her. "Why can't you just listen in this house?" Then he grounded her on the spot. She said she couldn't use her tablet or watch cartoons for 2 days. Except grounding a 6-year-old for an accident isn't discipline, it's punishment. I stepped in immediately. I told him to stop. He kept going, and it escalated until he said, "It's always something with her. She's loud. She's messy. She triggers me. I don't know how to handle her. Sometimes I just don't like being around her." Yes, he said that. Direct words. My daughter heard some of it. Not all. But she heard enough to know the tone was about her. She ran to her room. I followed and calmed her down. When I came back, Victor was sitting on the floor with his hands over his face. He said he didn't mean it. That he was overwhelmed. That he just felt invaded in his own mind, lately with the court stuff, the pressure, the constant judgment, and the way my ex talks about him. I told myself he was talking nonsense because he was stressed. I told myself people say things they don't mean when they feel attacked. I told myself a lot of things to make it make sense. But the next morning, he packed a bag. He said, "I need to get better. I need space. I don't want to harm her emotionally." He left. We're not officially separated yet, but he's staying at his brother's place, and we've agreed to pause cohabitation. So now I'm in mediation alone. My ex is in full presentation mode. He shows up in neat outfits, with notes and documentation, and a new stable job. He looks like the picture of responsible parenthood. Meanwhile, Victor leaving is being treated as evidence that my home environment is unstable. My daughter told her father she wants to live at daddy's house more because it's quiet there. The mediator asked if I was willing to consider a temporary primary custody shift. I said absolutely not. I am not letting my ex take my daughter away from me just because he can play the perfect parent when it's convenient. But I'd be lying if I said I'm not scared. It feels like I'm losing. Not because I think I'm wrong. I still believe I protected my household. I still believe my ex is doing this out of bitterness. But everyone else, the court, the school, my parents, the mediator is acting like they're already preparing for the outcome. I'm not giving up my daughter. I'm not letting my ex rewrite the history of who was actually there raising her. And I'm not letting one meltdown define Victor as a monster. He's not. He's just struggling. And I'm holding this together the best I can. But I can feel the ground moving under me. I don't know what to do next. Comments. Comment 1. You treated parenting like a competition, and you're losing because the scoreboard was never the kid. Your ex didn't win. You didn't lose. None of this is about who looks more stable to strangers. The only person whose experience matters here is the kid. And the kid is saying, she's uncomfortable. She feels safer at dad's. Victor doesn't like her. Whether that's objectively true isn't the point. It's her perception. And right now, her perception is reality. Also, your ex didn't magically become a better parent just because he got a calmer job. He just figured out how to speak the court's language faster than you. He knows how to perform competence. You know how to perform endurance. But performance isn't what your daughter is responding to. She's responding to emotional tone. And the tone in your house is, don't upset Victor. The younger, smarter, better-looking line is telling. You see Victor as a win over your ex. A replacement trophy. The proof you came out on top. But your daughter didn't need a new husband. She needed a parent whose emotional stability didn't depend on how well the adults in the house were coping. Until you realize that, it will always feel like you're losing. Comment 2. Your daughter told you the truth with her actions. You ignored it. She asked to stay at her dad's more. That was the moment everything should have stopped so you could reassess. Instead, you defended Victor, defended yourself, and defended the narrative where your ex is the villain because it's easier than facing the fact that the dynamic you built is hurting your kid. And then Victor said he doesn't like being around her. He said it. Out loud. That is not something a person says by accident. That is something that has been true inside him for a while. The difference is now you've heard it. The court, the school, your parents, no one is turning on you. They are reacting to the same information your daughter has been communicating this whole time. Your daughter is not confused. She is clear. You're the one refusing to hear it. This is not about custody, or bitterness, or jealousy, or who remarried better. This is about the fact that your daughter does not feel emotionally safe in her home, and instead of prioritizing her, you are prioritizing the story you want to believe about your life. YTA not because of intent, but because of refusal to see what's right in front of you. Update. A lot has settled, but not in the way I expected. Victor never came back. After a few weeks apart, we both agreed it was better to stay separated. He said he still cares about me, but doesn't see how he can be part of a household with a child without compromising his health. I didn't fight him on it. I was too tired. My ex dropped the custody modification once Victor moved out, and I agreed to enroll our daughter in therapy. He said, the issue resolved itself. That was his exact phrasing. Smug, like he got what he wanted. CPS closed their file shortly after, no further action. Just some documentation and a recommendation to maintain a consistent emotional environment for our daughter. I've been following it as best I can. The custody schedule is still 50-50. On paper, nothing changed, but it feels like everything did. My daughter is more withdrawn around me than she used to be. She doesn't say much when she comes back from her dad's, and when she's here, she's polite. Not cold, but different. Like she's waiting for something to go wrong. I'm trying. I've been showing up. School stuff, her favorite meals, and bedtime stories. But I can tell the energy shifted, and I'm not sure if or when it will shift back. I haven't heard from Victor in a while. I don't regret defending my home. but I hate how much I lost doing it. Second story. My girlfriend is abusive and sawed me. But she claims that because I'm a man, I can't be sawed. She threatens self-harm or physical harm when I try to break up. And I'm losing my sanity. Hello, I 27M and my girlfriend 30F have been in a relationship for over 5 months. And through those months I have received quite a lot of abuse, mainly verbal. But also there have been instances of being held against my will and locked in her apartment. Also possibly so. I say possibly because the way she handled it when I was clear that I did not want sex, as I had just finished work and was really ill, made me feel awful, as she basically forced herself on me and then lashed out that I did not want as ex. I am a guy. So I guess I don't know how to feel about calling it sa. It all began 1 month in. She is very disrespectful, talking in a passive-aggressive and sarcastic manner, generally has a nasty attitude, speaks in a disrespectful way, swears at me, insults me, and does things out of spite. Add to that her fits of rage, explaining how she would end herself in great detail, while shouting and talking about throwing her pet rabbit out the window. All this when she's in a bad mood. But when she's in a good mood, she is very loving and caring, and does not see the world without me. The entire emotional roller coaster got me in depressive moods, and I stopped eating and going to the gym. I was not strong enough to keep boundaries, as she would always explode and get upset if I wasn't there for her. I had to sacrifice a lot of my time and walk on eggshells just to avoid these situations. I noticed she is very codependent. 4 days ago, I was having a rough time since life has hit me like a train in October, unrelated to the relationship, and I told her about some of my problems since she wants to know everything. Since I told her about it, she has been disrespectful daily, and that hurt me, as she said 4 days ago she is there for me. Also, for the past 4 months I did help her a lot, and was there for her through her tough times. This was the only time I truly needed her emotional support, and was met with disrespect. I am at a stage now where she has written an essay about how sorry she is about everything, and how much she loves me, and how she wants to stay with me forever, and be there for me, while I am having a hard time responding, as I feel disgusted and angry whenever I attempt to. But part of me still wants to stay. I do not want to visit her and be near her, as it makes me feel angry. This is the first weekend we are spending apart. As I know I would be just forcing myself to spend time with her, she got really upset that I am spending time alone and got passive-aggressive. I do not know what to do. It's been half a day since she wrote me, and I still haven't replied because it will feel forced. I don't even want to reply or contact her at the moment, but I do not want to leave. I wish I could write our situations here to show you that I have never given her a reason to treat me like this. If anything, I am the best thing that happened to her, in her words, as I have helped her in many ways for the past 4 months. If I attempt to write the situations out, I will end up writing a whole book. But in short, it's basically stuff like her waking up from a nap in a bad mood, which would mean I will be getting abuse for hours, and my attempts at going out for a drive to be alone would be stopped with her physically forcing me to stay and locking the doors while hiding keys. Writing all this out makes me feel like I'm not a man anymore. I feel so stupid, as I think any self-respecting man would have walked away ages ago. Could it be a trauma bond? In her defense, she is aware of what she does after the fact and feels super guilty about it, promising that will never happen again. But it does anyway. She mentioned she does have a mental illness, which now the doctors are saying she has been misdiagnosed with. She has not been actively seeking help and therapy. I have been very patient. I never argue, even when she tries her best to argue. I communicate everything clearly and tell her what bothers me and what hurts me greatly. We had many talks before, usually after my attempts at breaking up, but it changed nothing. We would talk about what hurt me, and she would promise to never do it again, only to do it again the next day. Edit. Sometimes me simply mentioning what she had done that hurt me would send her into another explosive rage, and sometimes she would be apologetic. It got me paranoid and anxious since I did not know what would happen next. Edit. I understand I could be the trigger to her behavior. She did say she needs to process these emotions alone, so she does not take it out on me. But that's impossible, as in her bad moods, she becomes unreasonable. She asks for hugs and words of reassurance as she verbally abuses me, and the next moment she asks for space. But when I walk away, she throws another fit because I am leaving her alone in her hard times. I literally cannot win. TLDR, my GF is abusive. Part of me wants to still stay, but it's caused so much damage, I feel disgust and anger thinking about replying to her apology essay. I don't know what to do. Comments. Comment 1. I see that you don't want to leave, but you should. She needs to get mental help, and you need to protect yourself. As someone who has struggled with a lot of mental health problems due to an abusive childhood, I understand that it can be hard to control behavior. But I like to say your mental illness isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility. You should not tolerate abuse of any kind, and I hope you find the strength to leave. I know it's hard. OP. In my head and gut, I know I need to leave, but my heart still wants to stick around. I did tell her that her bad past relationships and/or childhood and her mental illness can explain her behavior, but cannot justify it. Thank you. I need to find the strength to do it and pull through with it fully. Go no contact. Comment 2. Yes, and like the other comments say, if it's only 5 months, it could end up getting worse. You are better off heartbroken than abused. If you decide to stay, the abuse may follow you around for the rest of your life, and you will suffer repercussions greater than you already have. I always recommend therapy, so maybe that could help you out. Wishing you better and safer times. And it will get better with time if you leave. I also hope that money can be under the care of someone who won't throw it out the window. OP. Thank you for your kind words. Yeah, you're 100% right. The longer I stay, the worse I am making it for myself health-wise. It won't get better unless she wants to change and seek help. But then that will take years of abuse until she actually gets better. I know for a fact her self-harm mentions and hurting the rabbit are just words. She will not actually go through with it, but it still cuts deeply. Update. So, I ended up having enough of her. And for the first time ever, I lost my patience and argued back. I wasn't mean or anything like she was. I just basically poured out everything that she has done to me. The argument started from little things that she disrespected me with. It was as if she did not know how to talk to a partner with respect. It was enough for me to lose my temper. Without raising my voice, I said everything that she has done to me. And to my surprise, she ended up apologizing for everything. 1,000-word essays nonstop through text essentially boiled down to, I know I have been abusive and toxic. I am sorry for everything I said and did. I brought all of my past relationships onto ours, and for the past 2 weeks, I have been working on myself to be better for us, because I only want to be with you. Which played on my heartstrings a little. But I realized that if someone got me at a stage where I lost my temper, I did not want to end up being the bad guy. And this will clearly not work anyway. The past cannot be rewritten, and I feel anxious whenever I think about meeting or talking to her, so I ended it. There's a huge difference between the last breakup and the breakups before. This time I no longer felt sad and cried. I felt relief and at peace, and even smiled. I needed to understand that what I have been through was not normal, and it was abuse, which let me break the trauma bond. I felt hatred yesterday, so I wrote a long hate text, which I did not end up sending. Today, I feel indifferent and ready to continue on with my life. She keeps sending me texts of apologies and promises, but I might end up having to block her. Thank you to everyone that has commented in the original post. This was my first proper serious relationship, and at first I thought these were normal things that partners basically need to work on for the relationship to last. But I have done a lot of reading, and your comments made me realize it was just constant abuse. The fog has been lifted. Edit. For the past few days, bad memories have started flooding back in, making me realize more and more that I made the right choice ending it. The threats of physical violence against me, manipulation and guilt-tripping with self-harm threats, threats of destroying my possessions, and silent treatment that made me feel like I didn't exist for hours at a time. It all enraged me how I let all that happen and I stayed. But it's over now. I just need to move on. Comments. Comment 1. My mom gave me some great advice when I was younger regarding her first marriage. She realized it was time to leave when she dreaded going home. You shouldn't ever have to feel that way about the place you live, especially because of your significant other. Comment 2. Stay safe. Keep us updated. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.